parabolas. Parabolas. I don't know what I'm talking about parabolas, but here we are. Alright. Wait, I need a better clap. Only 9 minutes late this time. Clock it. We did good. Pat myself on the back for that one. Hey, what's up, Adam? How you doing? First one in the chat. I feel you. No green beanie. It is record heat, my friend. I would like to not experience the same type of light. I was gonna make a joke about like slavery, but I forgot where I was going. Like my whole light situation just fucked me up. Anyways, yeah, what's up? How you living? Whew. Just say, you know what? I'm about to say it. Say what? You're still wrong about Batman. Miss me with that shit. All-Star Batman and Robin's great. It is the artistic tour de force of our generation. It is hands down the greatest literary piece in the entire sequential art medium, and yeah, that's the hill I'm gonna die on. Yeah. That like ending smile is like the freeze frame, where it's just like the Devil May Cry like shootout like bow 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 bow, or you know the light turning off and then Batman just like shows up and just. I know Batman wouldn't stab somebody. That's like a Red Hood thing. Adam says, given the ridiculous premise of Agatha Harkness given a show, by that logic, Captain Cold should get a show. Have it played by Colin Farrell and have it written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. Oh, wait, okay, hold on. That actually sounds very based. I'm not gonna lie, right? This would never happen, but can you like a Quentin Tarantino style like rogues movie in like the vein of like Ocean's 11 or whatever the fuck? That'd be boss as fuck. I mean, that's basically just what the Black Label Rogues book is right now, which I'm absolutely loving. Not enough like racial slurs and like just full on foot shots to be a Tarantino thing, but nah, dude, still, you know, still close enough. What's up, Tevye? How you doing, buddy? Oh, Supreme, what's up, man? What's up? Question. I understand your issues with Silver Age Superman. So what are your criticisms with Bronze Age Superman? God damn. Are we gonna have a problem? Are we? Cause you're doing this a lot, man. Anyways, all right. So, oh yeah, Supreme. So, okay. I'm just gonna read that whole thing over again. I understand your issues with Silver Age Superman. So, what are your criticisms with Bronze Age Superman? The Bronze Age was an attempt to modernize Supes. Yes, but it I have a whole video on that coming like soon. I'm like in the process of editing that like right now. Not like right now. I'm in the stream right now, but like, you know, I am editing a video for that very topic. And like hopefully it gets like uploaded like either tomorrow or Friday. Hopefully. But yeah, no, it's a whole thing where it's not just Silver Age Superman. Like Bronze Age Superman is kind of like, I like a lot of that stuff because that's like all the Jack Kirby like fourth world material, but you know, I like how I did the shrug. It's like Susan My Light decided to like fuck me. Just like a see up. I mean, there's a delay. I can see it, but you saw it. It looks cool. But I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of pre-Crisis Superman. Once you get to the Silver Age onwards. Toby says, how do you feel about the Batgirl movie being canceled? Okay. I guess this like jumps us like right into like, you know, relevant topics. So the whole Batgirl movie thing is like really unfortunate because, at least for me, it's a major monkey's paw. I mean, looking outside of myself, I feel really bad for Leslie Grace. I feel really bad for all of the crew members. I feel bad for Brendan Fraser. I feel bad for everyone involved in the making of this movie. Because making a movie's hard, man. You know, I'm not sure if you know this, but like making movies is very fucking difficult. And it just sucks that like this whole project got shit canned. And I liked Leslie Grace's, you know, the look that she had for Barbara Gordon. I was, you know, kind of tentatively excited to see her interactions with J.K. Simmons as Gordon, you know, and I would have liked to see more of J.K. Simmons as Gordon because he's like one of my favorite. I don't want to say one of my favorites. He's barely in Justice League, but like of what he's in, he feels like that classic like that like New Gotham era Gordon. You know, the one who's just like, I don't give a shit. Oh, there's people fighting in the holding cells. Christmas takes care of it. Like I don't know. He felt like comic book Gordon in that kind of way. He felt like the early 2000s Gordon in the same way that like Ben Affleck felt like the early 2000s Batman to me, or at the very least like a dark mirror version of early 2000s Batman in BVS, which then you get to Justice League and he feels kind of like Bronze Age Batman. It's weird. I really appreciate what they were doing with Ben Affleck's Batman in those movies, but no, I was really excited to see more of J.K. Simmons as Gordon, and you know, it just really sucks. You know, it's really unfortunate for the actors and for the people involved in the making of the movie. Now, for me as a fanboy, it's hard to like express how I feel about this because just the Batgirl movie that we were going to get would have been such a fucking monkey's paw. Because, okay, I love Batgirl. I love the legacy of Batgirl. I love Barbara Gordon. I like her more as Oracle, but yeah, I still really like Barbara Gordon as Batgirl. I think she's, I think her legacy in that role shouldn't be kind of like, you know, foo-fooed just because she worked way better as a character as Oracle. But nah, man, it was gonna be like part of this weird like kind of Snyderverse but not really Snyderverse kind of thing where like Michael Keaton was Batman, but like the Batfleck Gordon was Gordon. And it was all because of like behind the scenes corporate like dick measuring politics. I don't know, man. It would have been such a weird ass movie. It just would have been so weird, and I don't think I would have been able to look past that personally. Or maybe I would have. I don't know. I'm never gonna know because the movie's not gonna come out. Hopefully somebody like Roger Corman's that shit and puts it on the internet somewhere. But it's so bizarre. Um, but I don't know. I don't know how to feel. You know, I feel bad for the actress in the end, and like everyone else involved in that movie. But as a fan, I just I don't care. I don't care. I don't know. Um, the costume looked cool though. You know, I really wish we got to see that costume like in motion. And I really wish we got to see Firefly, because I like Firefly. He's a very underrated villain, and by that I mean like he was a joke villain for like 10 years, and then everyone forgot about him. But still would have been cool to see. Adam says, my third favorite Flash story of all time is Absolute Zero. It's where Captain Cold gets revenge for his sister. The show should be Captain Cold from... Oh, the show should be Captain Cold from the Johns run. Best character with Hunter. Oh, you mean Zolomon? Yeah, I love Hunter Zolomon. He's like one of my favorite villains. Although in recent years he's kind of become one of the generic insert Speed Force villain here type characters, which is unfortunate. But I really like that whole psyche that he had, not psyche, like that like psychology behind his villainy, where he's like, no, I'm just gonna beat the fuck out of you until you become the best version of yourself you can possibly be. I think that's really interesting. But if you're like pitching to me like a I don't know. Are you talking about the Tarantino style Rogues movie? Oh fuck yeah, that'd be great doing the Jeff Johns version of Captain Cold. That would work very well. Because I know you're not talking about that CW Flash show. Just such wasted potential, man. And it's weird, like, I have a fondness for season 1 and, like, part of season 2, because that show is kind of what, I guess, revitalized my YouTube channel. And if you guys are, like, you've been here, like, long enough, you know, like, I started this channel when I was in high school as, like, a little kid. And then I got, like, really self-conscious when, like, people in my school found out about it, so I was like, I'm not gonna do that anymore. But then like the Flash show comes out, and you know I'm like, hey, I'll talk about the Flash. But yeah, I was really excited because I just love the Flash. He's like one of my favorite characters. And season 1's really good. I still maintain that. Season 2 is also pretty good. Yeah, no, I legitimately do like season 2. It's season 3 when it's like Savitar. Oh. Actually, it's funny. Speaking of Flash and like my affinity for Flash and why I think the show is just like a big nothing burger of wasted potential. It's actually one of the books I picked up this week. I said it before with the volume 2. Everything that anybody loves about the Flash comes from Mark Waid. And it's just so bizarre that show kind of like takes a lot of these concepts and makes them like boring and stupid. And also gives them all to Barry Allen. But that's like not a problem like limited to just the show. That's like a problem with DC on the whole in regards to the Flash. But I don't know. At least Wally is the Flash again in comics for now, because Dark Crisis kind of hinted at the fact that the Justice League aren't actually dead. Actually, I think they got like spoiled by DC at San Diego Comic-Con when they just said, "Yeah, no, the Justice League is gonna come back. They're not really dead." Crisis gotcha. I mean, we all knew they weren't really dead, but like, holy shit, way to just it's, it's like, yeah, we're throwing a surprise birthday party. What? I mean, I knew, but like, don't tell me. It's so weird. Um. Adam says, hot take. Barbara Gordon was her best when she was Oracle. Is that really a hot take? Is it? I thought we all just like kind of unanimously agreed on that. Oh, not unanimously because Gail Simone obviously didn't agree. But fantastic self-reflection, some Evangelion level of reflection. Now she's a 30-year-old woman trying to relive the glory days amidst a midlife crisis. Is that like actually being touched on in the Batgirl's book? Because I think that's an interesting concept, but from what I've been told of that comic, like it's passing up a lot of really interesting ideas, which is why I'm just not reading it, if I'm gonna be honest. But yeah, no, weird. That's the thing. I feel like there's so many like really interesting ideas and implications in a lot of comics that people just kind of get frustrated with and like throw the towel in on. Because it's not that the book doesn't have interesting ideas, it's just that none of those ideas are like being fleshed out in like a meaningful manner. Like I would be like really interested in like checking out like a Batgirl book like that, or a Batgirl's book like that. But I also don't know how I feel about there being two Batgirls. Like, I'm in the minority. I liked when Cassandra Cain became the Black Bat. You know, I don't like the weird ass like circumnavigation through her like character arc to get there, where she became like the leader of like the League of Assassins for a long time. I can live without that, but no, I like her as Black Bat. And I liked the idea of Stephanie Brown as, oh no, I've come around on the idea of Stephanie Brown as Batgirl, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't see I don't see a need for there to be two Batgirls at the same time. But I don't see the need for there to be multiple like superheroes with the same moniker running around at the same time. Like it's kind of weird. And I mean, yeah, there are exceptions to it. You know, I think for the Flash, you can make an exception. I think for Green Arrow, you can kind of make an exception because Oliver Queen is like such an irreverent guy. He like wouldn't really care. Hawkeye's also kind of an exception. I can see because same deal. You know, just very, like painfully irreverent. He's like, I have more to deal with in my life than caring about who has the name Hawkeye. But I don't know. Like there being like multiple Batmen. There being multiple Robins at the same time, I think is very fucking weird. I don't like that. There being like multiple Daredevils, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that whole idea because I think it makes the characters like redundant. You know, like if you want to have Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson both be active as superheroes at the same time, that's cool. But if you want to have Sam be Captain America, then for the love of God, have Steve move on to being anything the fuck else. I don't know. I just think it's... I think it creates, like, redundancies in the character, and it's... Why? And the biggest defense of it that I see is often, like, but there's, like, multiple Green Lanterns, you're fine with that. Yeah, because Green Lantern's not a superhero moniker created by one person. It's the space cops. You know, like it's Power Rangers and some bullshit. Thank you, Light. You agree with me. I Nah, the whole there being like multiple superheroes with the same name, that's an annoying trend. I hope it goes away soon. Supreme says on the DCEU, it's sadly fitting that Warner Brothers would still promote a Flash movie starring an actual criminal on the run. If that movie ever comes out, that should be the tagline. A hero who's always on the run. Meanwhile, the star of the film is on some like real life Roman Polanski bullshit. Brilliant. So brilliant. They're not gonna do it because we do live in a parody dimension, but like I don't think we're that mask off yet. We got to give it some time, just a little bit, But God, that'd be funny. Tubby says the timeline has been a mess since WB was in control. Well, I mean WB's always been in control. It's just different corporate handlers. Toby says, any opinion on Death of Superman getting a 30th anniversary? Because for me, I am excited for this story only because the return of Jonathan Kent. Yeah, but it's like a flashback story, so it's not actually Jonathan Kent. It is Jonathan Kent. It's the real Jonathan Kent. It's the Jonathan Kent that we all care about, but it doesn't. All it is retconning that like Jonathan was a kid when Superman died, which I think is interesting. But that like also completely changes the nature of Death of Superman, and by extension, the early 2000s, like that whole City of Tomorrow era, because at least for me, the big appeal for that era was that Lois and Clark were newlyweds, and it was like it's kind of like new, different like thing, and you know when you have a 10-year-old child thrown in that mix, well, a lot of that like honeymoon stuff that they were going through and like throughout the 90s and early 2000s, kind of go out the window. So very bizarre, but I'm interested to see how that looks. Despite the fact that I'm over the Death of Superman. Like seeing DC promote the Death of Superman is like seeing Marvel promote, hey, remember that time Gwen Stacy died? Like, yes, it happened a long time ago, and we've moved on since then. We've told other stories since then. We don't need to keep going back there. Like, I don't know. I'm all for like callbacks in comics, and I'm all for like building, new stories off of old stories. But like when we just keep building off of like the same old story, what? For me, that was what was so refreshing about Grant Morrison's run on Batman, because he essentially built his entire run around one single issue of what is it? Robin Dies at Dawn, where he like makes one of the background doctors in that. Okay, for those of you who like haven't checked out for like anyone who hasn't checked out the Robin Dies at Dawn story, it's like an old like 1960s Batman comic, I think. It's collected in the Batman of the 60s graphic novel, but yeah, in that story, like Batman and Robin are like hanging out in this like weird ass alien planet, and Robin just eventually dies because his little boy legs give out as he's trying to like save Batman from like a dinosaur or some shit. And as the title promises, Robin dies at dawn. But then you find out in classic Silver Age fashion, it was all a dream, you know. Actually, Batman and Robin were partaking in this like government experiment in like a sleep deprivation chamber or something. And that's a bizarre story. But anyways, Grant Morrison builds his entire like how many omnibuys does that thing take up? Like, do I have it over there? No, I don't. It's not on my bookshelf. It's like in one of my long boxes. But that thing is like 3 omnibuy thick. Grant Morrison built an entire run off of like one background character who has like one little like sentence word balloon, and it's brilliant. In fact, it's probably, in my opinion at least, the last great Batman run. So like, I'm all for like building, you know, new material off old material. Just can we build off of some old material that's like not the same old material that we keep building off of? I don't know. Just a thought. Like, Jesus, if you're gonna like build off a new idea with Spider-Man, for example, like instead of pulling from the tragedy of like the death of Gwen Stacy, why not do something with the death of Peter and MJ's baby? Right, from Clone Saga. Because I mean, I haven't read Clone Saga in like a fucking brick, but I mean, do we ever actually see their baby die? Do we? Like, I don't know. I think you can do a lot with that concept. You know, just bring back this like child. I mean, you essentially be aging Peter and MJ up dramatically at this point, but like, no, just bring in this child and say like, hey, that's the little girl or guy or whatever. That's the little bob of like, you know, fetal flesh that popped out of MJ that died that one time. Wouldn't that be interesting? I don't know. I think it would be cool to do that. But just a thought. Just let's build off some other older stories instead of like just rehashing the same old stuff. Season 3, everything goes to hell. Oh, you're talking about Flash? Yeah. The CW Flash show shouldn't have doubled down on the Reverse Flash early on. He should have been a series finale villain. Yes, but considering that Jeff Johns was like a major, like, I almost said like production force, or is it producer force, production force? Productor force, maybe. The light disagrees with me, so no, not productive force. But you know, Jeff Johns had like major influence on that show, so like obviously that whole thing was going to be building off of a lot of the Flash Rebirth material. Despite the fact that Flash Rebirth is centered around a veteran, Barry Allen, who's returning from the dead, so I don't get the logic in that, but oh well. Yeah, no, that's why Reverse Flash is in that, you know. It was me, Barry. I convinced Jeff Johns to put me in this first season of your show. I made all of those racist hate tweets against Candace Patton. It was me, Barry. I was the turkey all along. Me! Supreme Omega, Dark Spider-Man, what if Peter was assassinated on live television during Civil War just after he unmasked himself? How would Peter's public death affect MJ, Aunt May, Tony, Steve, and Norman? Well, I can tell you that Norman probably would have been the one to do it. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting like story concept. I like that idea a lot. Pitch it to Marvel Comics. See what they say. You know, write it. Have at least like one steamy sex scene though. You know, just one. Just one. Just to cement that it's like an old school Spider-Man story. Because Spider-Man stories aren't horny anymore. Just, they aren't. It's very weird. Like, I'm going back and, like, reading a bunch of, like, old, like, 80s Spider-Man comics. And, like, the prude in me is like, why the fuck did my mom let me read this shit when I was, like, 8? This is horny as hell. Like every couple of pages, like, MJ's, like, ripping off her top, going, like, alright, Tiger, suck on mommy's milkers. Like, what the Bro, what is this? This is bizarre. I mean, I like it. I'm into it. Peter's into it. Yeah, I'm vicariously living through Peter here. Hell yeah. But, like, still... so weird. Just absolutely insane. Amazing what comics could get away with before the days of, frankly, comics being, you know, or much rather superheroes being in the public eye to the degree that they are now. So interesting. Actually, I had that thought too when I was reading like some of the 90s Superman. Like I'm like actively rereading Death of Superman. Not for any particular reason, just my dad had those comics, and now that he's, you know, since passed away, I now have them, so I might as well read them. Might as well check them out. I keep forgetting that, like, Superman, like, murders Hank Henshaw at the end of that story. Like, Superman just straight up, like, just what he does to the Joker in Injustice, he just, like, just punches Hank Henshaw in the chest and just gores the man, and then he vibrates his arm and Hank Henshaw explodes. You can't get away with that now. Oh no, you can't get away with that now. Oh no, that is a big no in, like, today. But in, like, 1995 or whatever, that was, like, totally fine. So weird. Just absolutely insane to me. Tevye says, I was hoping Dark Crisis was going to reboot the DC Universe and undo the damage caused by the Bendis nonsense. Well, I mean, you can hold on to hope, because that's what Superman's all about, you know. Hope. Not necessarily like, you know, the crushing reality of our world, but hope. I don't know. There's like a million things I think DC can do. I personally would like if they undid the whole thing where everyone knows that Superman is Clark Kent, because I think you really miss something in having Superman's identity be public. I think there's something weird about Clark Kent being a celebrity that it rubs me the wrong way. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of that. But I don't know. Oliver Queen used to be broke as fuck, and now he's just like a billionaire, like he is traditionally. Bruce Wayne is currently like a millionaire, and I'm sure that's gonna get reversed by the end of like the next like run or two. So, it's comics. It's comics. It'll get put back. Maybe not the John Kent thing, because I know you're, like, really big on, like, John Kent being a kid. I can totally see John Kent dying before that happens. Yeah. Adam says, since you've been more caught up with the Flash lore for the past decades, did you ever find it ridiculous when DC made it a tradition to wreck the Flash family mythos in a Crisis or a new DC event? I mean, I've always thought that was funny. Like, I love how in Crisis on Infinite Earths, Barry dies. 0 Hour. I don't think anything happens to the Flash family in 0 Hour, but I do know for a fact that uh, Oliver Queen, like, his heart gets broken when he has to, like, shoot his best friend in the heart. That was pretty fucked up. I'm trying to think, what other crisis does something terrible happen to the Flash? Oh, I guess Identity Crisis, if you're gonna count that as a crisis. Wally is just completely disillusioned with his Uncle Barry, because Barry is one of the... I think Barry was like the swing vote on the Justice League to like wipe Batman's memory of the Justice League essentially mind raping supervillains. I guess if you count that's like another one. Wally's entire family getting sucked into the Speed Force. Okay, that's another one too. I'll give you that. What else? Final Crisis. Oh no, okay. Final Crisis is not that bad because Barry comes back. Okay, well now that I'm thinking about that sentence as it's escaped my lips, okay, I take that back. Maybe that was a negative in the long run. Yeah, no, you're right. Like, something terrible does happen to the Flash family in every crisis. I think that's really funny. Tevia, question. How do you feel about Marvel not letting Miles Morales be the mainstream Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe? It's expected. I mean, first of all, it was a half-assed decision to do that. You know they weren't thinking, like, down the line, like, oh, how are we gonna, like, make Miles like his own unique, interesting character within the main Marvel universe and blah 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 blah. No, they weren't thinking that far ahead. They were like, let's put Miles in the main universe and have him hang out with Peter. What are we gonna do next? I don't fucking know. Just have him there. But I also feel like that's the case with Miles in general as a character. I think a lot of people fixate on like some of the superficial qualities, we'll say, of Miles Morales' character. But beyond that, they don't think about it that deep because Marvel Comics isn't thinking about it that deep. So why would they and why should they? Honestly, which is why Miles will never be the main Spider-Man of the 616 universe, unfortunately. Even though I think he easily could, but yeah. And Supreme Omega says, anime hot take: 2003 Full Metal Alchemist is a better adaptation than Brotherhood, much darker tone. I've actually never read Full Metal Alchemist. In fact, I've never watched the 2003 show. Outside of like maybe like a scene or two. In fact, I can tell you exactly what I think I've seen from the original Full Metal Alchemist. This was years ago. I was like probably in middle school. And I'm at my aunt's house for Christmas. I'm like passed out in her basement watching TV. And it's that one scene. At least I think this is Full Metal Alchemist. But like, I'm gonna need a sauce. I'm gonna need a sauce check on this. Where not Alphonse. Fuck. What's Edward. When like Edward is like walking down the street and like he just walks into this like fat chick's tits, and he's like, I feel like I'm trapped between two worlds, and she just like smacks him in the face. I think that's like the only thing I've ever seen from the original Full Metal Alchemist series. Beyond that, I've never seen that show in my life. I've only watched Brotherhood. That's like my only connection to Full Metal Alchemist. But I do want to read the manga at some point, because it is all in it's all collected, like, and it's in print, so I'll check it out at some point. Actually, speaking of manga, I'm trying to like build my like physical manga collection. And I've actually heard a lot of really good stuff about Chainsaw Man. Okay, it's so weird. Much like like 80s and 90s Spider-Man comics, and shit, like 80s and 90s comics in general. This is horny as fuck. Like it's it's very like mask off horny, which is always funny. Just like going like a quick little tangent here, I guess. When I see a lot of like Western comics creators freak out about how, you know, manga is so derogatory of women and it's so misogynistic, and you know it's so like it's so needlessly horny. Like, why? Oh, he's so disgusting. Why are you depicting women like that? Why are you putting men in situations where they're depicting women? It's like, bro, you wrote comics in like the 90s and the 80s when, you know, you'd have like the most cheesecake and superhero comics. Like you're of that like comics generation where y'all were making Power Girls like tits bigger each issue and expanding the boob window every panel just for the lulz. But you're gonna sit here and talk about how like manga's like it's degenerate trash. I mean, it is degenerate trash, and I love it because I'm degenerate trash. But like, no, like it I don't know. This is no. I'll show this. This is no worse than your average Marvel comic in like 1990. It really isn't. But I digress. Point is, I'm reading this. I'm not that far into it. I'm like just after the part where, I mean, I won't spoil it for anyone who like is not checking out Chainsaw Man, but I don't know. A thing happens. It's the call to action, if you will, and like how he ends up becoming Chainsaw Man. I just got to that part, or like a little after that part, where they introduced the chick with all that like weird Belle Delphine looking fan art. Yeah, like her character just got introduced. I'm liking it so far. It's really fun. It's like wholesomely fucked up. Like, like okay, if you're like a big fan of like Invader Zim and Invader Zim and like a lot of the not Joaquin Dos Santos, that's Avatar. Yonan Vasquez, I think his name is. Like, if you're like a big fan of like Yonan Vasquez stuff, like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, Invader Zim. I think Filler Bunny might be Yonan Vasquez too. I don't remember though. But like if that's your thing, this is like right up your alley. It is. Yeah. I could totally see Homeboy. I can't remember his name, which is like probably a bad sign. But I don't know. I was just kind of like enamored with this whole thing, but Dingy. Oh yeah, Dingy. So like, fuck, ADD brain. What was I talking about? Shit. I don't know. Oh, wait, yeah, no. I could totally see like Dingy saying like girl lines from Invader Zim, like, I was the turkey all along. Me. I could totally see that happening. It's that vibe. I love it. Also, look, man, I'm not trying to do the whole like Western comics versus like manga thing, but $9.99. $3.99. Bro. Bruh. That's insane. I don't know. Okay, so I'm not like a sales analysis. Like I'm not like Perch or like your boy Zach. I don't think your boy's actually all that like. He's not a sales analysis guy. But still like I'm not like one of those like sales analysis channels. I don't know like the ins and outs of like the meat and potatoes of the industry and whatnot. But I don't know why comics cost so much. It puzzles me. Like it legitimately puzzles me. And it also just kind of like is one of those weird things where if you look at the price of like the average comic book trade, it's significantly a cheaper investment to get the trade than it is to get the actual comic as it's coming out month to month. I noticed that. Like, okay, that's something like I've always kind of like known in my head, but like it really hit me when I saw the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow trade that came out like I think like last week. That's like $20. It's $20 for 12 issue like maxi series where each issue costs $4.99, and I got each issue. So let's. I'm gonna pull my phone real quick. I'm gonna see just how much money how much money I wasted. Not wasted. I legitimately enjoyed Woman of Tomorrow. I really like checking that book out month to month. I'm glad that I have it, but like, bro, $20? $20? Okay. So, alright. $3.99, plus tax. Because, I live in Maryland, so, it's like $4.23 for the average comic book. $4.23. Or at least my comic shop is in Maryland, so. Times 12. Okay, so. 423 times 12. Wow. That is. Wait, no, not times 12. This is why I fucking failed math twice in high school. 423 plus 12. Okay, that's actually not terrible. It's like $16.23. Oh, okay, so it's not. Okay, so I don't think I actually wasted that much money. Alright, so maybe my whole analysis is falling apart now. Wait, no. Fuck. This merits like an actual like research video, I think. Looking into the price of trades. Like, is it cheaper to get a trade in the long run than it is to like, I don't know, just support the book month to month? I don't know. I gotta look into that. Anyways, let me like stop neglecting the chat. Like, let me see what you guys are talking about. I'm like so behind. Toby says Marvel themselves keeps bringing back Gwen Stacy over and over and over again. They can't help it. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Now if it's Emma Stone, I can see that because Emma Stone's like his baby, but she's not Emma Stone. People forget that Gwen Stacy in the comics was like a bitch when she first showed up. Clearly, my electricity disagrees with that sentiment, but I'm still right. But no, Gwen Stacy was like an absolute like just a miserable cunt. But like so was every other woman in the Spider-Man title under Steve Ditko, because I think Gwen Stacy's a Ditko creation, if I'm not mistaken. Like, yeah, she shows up in like the first like 30 or so issues. But yeah, no, Gwen Stacy's like just she's just not likable at all. And I think she's like mad at Peter for not noticing her when he's walking down like the campus at ESU. It's weird. So bizarre. But like everyone retroactively likes to pretend that she was like this lovey-dovey, like, oh, Peter, I'm the perfect girl. I'm gonna be the perfect girlfriend for you. Like, nah, that's not how that relationship was. Just like how I think a lot of people like to retcon that, like, Harry Osborn was this absolute just definition of sex, the stud in college, when like he wasn't. He was like a weird dork who wore like bow ties unironically and was like sniveling because he couldn't get Daddy's approval. Like, nah, Derry was not cool. Where does this train of thought come from? I don't know, but yeah, very weird, the whole like Saint Gwen Stacy thing that Marvel keeps doing. I don't get it. Supreme says, if you were the new writer of the Champions, what would you fix or change? What characters would you keep? What characters would you remove? So if I was writing the Champions, if I'm not mistaken, the Champions consist of Miss Marvel, Nova, Miles Morales, Amadeus Cho, and Viv Vision. First of all, I would try to not write them like a 50-year-old man trying to write teenagers. Second of all, I would actually write them like teenagers in the sense that they're allowed to be wrong about stuff. That's like my biggest problem with the Champions book. And I get what Mark Waid was going for. I get what the later creative teams are going for. But this whole idea of, nah, man, like, viva la revolution, like, we're the future now, old man, and you old timers, y'all are fogies, and you don't know how the world works. You gotta move aside, man. Like, get on board or get out of the way. Like, that whole thing, I think it can work only if you're self-aware of the fact that these are teenagers, and teenagers are retarded. I know, because I was a teenager myself, and I was a dumbass. It's like everyone in the world who's an adult now has been a teenager. They can attest that teenagers are stupid, because but like, it's not a thing where it's that weird thing where, in a way, I think teenagers are both like incredibly like naive and dumb, but also smarter than adults in a lot of cases, because teenagers are in that weird space where they're not quite adults, but they're expected to know how the adult world works. But because they're learning about how the adult world works, they're seeing just how dumb and like jaded we get as adults, and how we just kind of like let really terrible stuff slide, and they don't get it. They don't get it. And when they try to like act out against it, we like smack them on the hand and say, "Hey, you're not an adult yet, but you have to know how to be an adult." It's weird. Teenagers are in that weird spot, and if I ever wrote Champions, I would definitely try to, I would try to highlight that aspect of, just being a teenager in the world. I think that's like a very fascinating thing to kind of like explore. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I would do if I ever got my hands on Champions. Which I'm sure Marvel would never hire me, because they'd probably take like one look at my videos and go like, no. No, 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 no. Debbie says, "What about Scott Snyder's Batman run?" And it's fine. Um, I've definitely become less critical of it in the past couple years. I don't know. It's that weird thing where, and this happens a lot more, than people let on. But Scott Snyder just what the okay. Seriously, man, stop it. Come on, come on. Do I have to manually do the thing? Um, but yeah, no, like Scott Snyder's run on Batman, it shares so much thematically and narrative wise with Grant Morrison's Batman, that it kind of just feels like Snyder is just doing Morrison Batman, but like the Michael Bay version of it. Which I say that a lot. And I don't mean that in like a disparaging way. Like it's like I like Michael Bay. Like his movies are fuck off. Michael Bay's cool. But yeah, no, I like Michael Bay movies. They're like fun and dumb, and they have big actions, big explosions, girls with big titties, and it's guys with big muscles. It's everything that you would want in a summer blockbuster movie. What do you want from me? And that's what Scott Snyder's Batman run feels like to me. It is the Michael Bay version of Grant Morrison's Batman. But like with a weird like horror twist on it. Like if Michael Bay made a horror movie, that'd be interesting to watch, but I don't know how that would turn out. But no, like it's I don't know. I just had a whole thing where I was like, oh, I've read this already, back when it was first coming out, like, and that just kind of stuck with me. But in the past recent couple years, I've lightened up on that, because nothing is really new under the sun, especially in the medium of comics, and more specifically the business of like corporate comics, where these periodicals have to come out every month, and there's like 5 books per one character. Yeah, there's gotta be thematic and narrative overlap, so I just gotta let that go. But it's still just not for me. Toby says, no, we didn't see Peter and MJ's child dead. Oh, we didn't. Okay. Cool if we came back to that. That'd be cool if we came back to that. I don't know. I'm just saying. I think you could totally do something where you call back to that idea. Just a thought. My neck. My back. My pussy and my crack. Y'all know that song? Of course you know that song. Yeah, it's a great song. It's the greatest song in the history of human songs ever sang. Duh. Toby says, I really want Peter Parker and Mary Jane's child to be alive and kicking. Do you also want a bullet with its name on it? Do you also want the character to have a non-point? Do you also want the character to... Fuck, I don't know any more non-point songs or references. Damn it. But yeah, I don't know. You set me up for that one. Toby says, well, I just watched Lightyear and it was so disappointing. Are you watching it like during my stream? Is Lightyear that bad that you have to like watch a YouTuber stream while watching a movie? That's depressing. Fuck, dude. Sorry you wasted your money. Supreme Omega. In contrast to how the One More Day, Brand New Day creatives feel, Peter was a much more sexier character in his married era. Peter and MJ were one kinky pair. Yes, they were. Like, yes, they were. They're nymphos. Like that was nothing but Peter just projecting his painfully like repressed emotional experiences onto his wife, and MJ trying to please her father through her husband. Why did I take it there? No, that's not me. That's not a me thing. That's not my fault. That's Marvel Comics' fault for doing that with the character, which I think is brilliant. But sometimes you start to like psychoanalyze some of these characters, and your mind goes to like really dark places, and it's like, I wish I didn't overturn that rock. That rock was turned on its side for a very specific reason, and I just lifted it up. That's yep. Well, it was on my mind. Now it's on yours too. But yeah, no, like that was like one of the weird ironies of the post One More Day era. Like they did all that stuff where they wanted to like have Peter be sexy and single again, but the entire time that he's like sexy and single, the books aren't sexy. Peter's just single and miserable and miserably exclaiming about how he's single. Okay. Sorry. Not gonna make the obvious joke there. Tevye says, like the clone conspiracy and making the continuity for Spider-Man not make any sense, especially because Peter Parker and Mary Jane was married during the Clone Saga. Oh yeah, like one moment in time when they retcon that like Peter and MJ were never married, that still doesn't make sense to me. Like, there are a lot of things that have happened throughout the course of like Spider-Man's like lore from the 80s up to the early 2000s that only happened because Peter was married. Like, if Peter and MJ aren't married, what does that Kevin Smith story, which took like 5 years to come out, but I don't know why, but like what is like the evil that men do? Like, the only reason Peter isn't like, alright, I'm gonna fuck Black Cat right now, right here on top of the Empire State Building, is because he's married to MJ and he's trying to be a good like husband. And, I mean, you can kind of make it work for like, you know, if Peter and MJ are just like in a committed relationship, but like, I don't know, Peter also like never officially broke up with Black Cat. You know, like, I mean, well, no, I take that back. They kind of did break up. Because that whole thing where, like, Peter's like, I don't think we should see each other anymore. And Black Cat's like, I don't think we should see each other anymore either. But they do that, like, every couple of issues in, like, the Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man series, right? Unless my memory's just, like, fucking with me for the lulz, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but there's just a lot of stuff that happened in that, like, whole 25-ish year time span. Or, like, 22, 23-ish year time span. Where, like, those things only would have happened if Peter was married. So erasing the marriage from history is just bizarre to me. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Supreme Omega, on the Spidey Civil War, what if? How would Peter's public assassination affect Secret Invasion and Dark Reign? Would it though? Would it? I mean, I'd have to like go back and reread Secret Invasion and Dark Reign, but like, I don't remember Spider-Man playing that big a role. I mean, I know that Norman Osborn is in charge of Hammer, but I don't know how that I don't know how that affects, you know, the Marvel Universe on the whole. Um, Toby says, new question. On what if? Okay, well we're just doing a what if Spider-Man Civil War kind of thing. All right, cool. What if Civil War Spider-Man? How would Mary Jane react to Peter Parker's death, and would she try to become a hero to honor Peter's memory? Fuck no, no. MJ would not do that. Regardless of like how many like modern interpretations try to like make MJ this like uber badass who like does the thing. Okay, granted, MJ is a badass, but she's not like a superhero badass. Not in the way that like Lois Lane can sometimes be like a superhero badass, or a lot of the other like DC characters can be superhero badass. Like side characters at least. MJ, like, okay, this kind of goes back to that whole thing that I have with Spider-Man comics in general. I feel like there is a consistent tone in the Spider-Man line. And I'll talk about this in my upcoming video. I feel like Spider-Man comics are... It's a superhero comic, but like it's really a romance book. It's a romance soap opera drama kind of series. And that's pretty consistent for like 30 years. Like 30, 40 years. But then you get to like that whole One More Day era, and I don't know, when you get to Brand New Day, like all the romance, all the soap opera, all the melodrama, a lot of that kind of goes away in favor of making Spider-Man another superhero book with big action and big plots and big stakes, and the city is in peril from spider demons. Like, I don't know, it's weird. I feel like I feel like the problem with modern Spider-Man is, you know, Marvel trying to make Spider-Man their universe's version of Superman, which doesn't work because Spider-Man and Superman are like two radically different characters. Like the superhero side of like Peter Parker's day-to-day life isn't something that he like views as the most crucial part of his life, if that makes any sense. So like I don't know, I feel like roping in like MJ and, you know, all those other like friends and family and shit to be, nope, Peter's dead, so we have to rally the troops and be superheroes in his honor. I don't know, I feel like that would kind of go against the core thesis of Spider-Man. I hope I didn't sound like a dick like in answering that question. I'm not like dissing you. I'm not, you know, trying to be an asshole. Just I feel like overall Spider-Man's in this like weird place where he's just not who he is. Because I don't think a lot of people at Marvel know how to like approach the character of Peter Parker. Because I don't think a lot of them get Peter Parker, quite frankly. Sorry. W says, technically Wally West and his family actually went into the Speed Force during Infinite Crisis. Yes, they did. That's why Jai and Irie come out of the Speed Force like 10 years older. It's so weird. But again, it's basically just taking that whole business concept and like doing it 1,000 times better. Being honest. For being honest. Also, again, just major missed opportunity. If you kept John Kent as a child, it would have been great to watch John interact with Wally West's kids. That would have been so cool. But it is what it is. Adam says, DC originally intended for Wally to be killed off in Zero Hour and figured that Bart could be the new Flash character for money. Mark Waid was like, nope, my story, my character, my rules, I'm saving Wally. I'm glad he did. You know what? I think now's a good time to admit this. I never actually read Zero Hour all the way through. Like, I know what happens in it. But I never, like, sat down and, like, read Zero Hour. Should I? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? I don't know. Like, maybe this is, like, a controversial hot take, but I read Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm not a fan. Reading... It's so weird. Like, reading it feels like homework to me. Now, maybe it's because I wasn't reading a lot of the DC books around it at the time. Like, I haven't quite finished Wolfman and Perez's New Teen Titans, which is where I think Pariah comes from. And I don't think I've read, like, some of the other stuff coming out around that era. But, damn, I don't know. Crisis is just not a... I don't know. It wasn't my bag, at least. Same. I don't know. Same with shit, man. What was that other one? Legends. I don't like Legends. It's also that's also another one that just feels like, well, it's an important not Legends. Invasion is the other one where it's like, well, it's technically an important story to DC's legacy because it explains why you get to the early 2000s and like half the humans in the DC universe are fucking metahumans. It also explains where a lot of the metahumans come from in Grant Morrison's run on Doom Patrol, because I think that's post the Gene Bomb. So yeah, no, I don't know. I just wasn't a fan of Invasion, and I wasn't a fan of Crisis, but I also wasn't a fan of Secret Wars, if that's any consolation. Like not the Hickman one, like the one from the 80s, like the one that's a glorified toy commercial. I'm not a fan of that story. Like just weird stuff in there. I think Jim Shooter wrote that. He has a weird voice for Rhodey that just does not match what Dennis O'Neil was doing with the character at the time, but sure. Adam says favorite Flash story, the one with Barry and one with Wally. Oh, you're asking me what my favorite Flash stories are. One with Barry, one with Wally. I'll cheat. Rogue War. The last story in Jeff Johns' run. That is my favorite Flash story, and both Wally and Barry are in it. Gotcha. Sevi says, I personally liked Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 and Brotherhood. Cool, yeah, I'll check out the 2003 series. It's just, I've only seen that one scene. I call it the titty scene because that's my only reference for that whole show. Sevi says, people forget that manga isn't perfect either, and like comics, there are some bad stories. Oh, hell yeah. Dude, like, one of the weird things that, like, I think a lot of the Comicsgate dudes, and, like, especially the manga heads who, like, beat the Comicsgate drum, tend to forget about manga, is that what we get here in the States is, like, or much rather the West, is the creme de la creme. Like, the cream of the crop. We get the good shit, you know? In Japan, we're like, you know, Shonen Jump and Viz Media and like Kodanshu or like publishing these like major periodicals. I think like those stories are like printed like in anthologies. Like the individual chapters are printed in like these mega like anthologies, and like Shonen Jump and Viz and magazine and all that. There's a lot of dog shit in those anthologies. There's a lot of dog shit in those. Not every Shonen Jump magazine is going to have, you know, stories that are all the quality of Chainsaw Man. Not every Viz Media magazine is going to have, like not every story in Viz Media magazine is going to be of the same quality of Attack on Titan or Blue Exorcist or Naruto for that matter. You know, they're not always going to be winners. So there's a lot of dog shit that comes out in Japan. Just like there's a lot of dog shit out here in the West. But I think because a lot of people who are complaining or doing the most vocal complaining on the internet about Western comics, they live out here in the West where they have a front row seat to, you know, a lot of the bullshit. You know, that's just on their barometer. And they're seeing like, you know, manga just kind of come in and like sweep everyone's attention. Wait, every time I say manga, you go out. Is that like a sign? Do you like manga? Do you hate manga? I don't know. I'm talking to my fucking ceiling fan now. Jesus Christ. But I was going somewhere with that. I don't know. But oh, yeah. So like, you know, I think a lot of these dudes like they just kind of like hyperfixate on the fact that manga selling out in my local comic shop. This is why American comics are dying. And it's like, well, no, man. There are a lot of various factors in why manga is very popular here in the West. There's a lot of varying factors in why your favorite Marvel and DC comics aren't doing so hot right now. Which I also think you're like kind of painfully omitting indie comics and how there's like a massive boom in the independent market, which I think should be celebrated because like the indie scene is kind of returning to what it once was before the Wortham trials, which I think is really fascinating, and no one's talking about that, which I really think they should. But no, man, I think that fuck it. Let me all right, mask off. Fuck them dudes. Fuck them dudes who are like, you know, manga SJW comics are trash because manga's great. Fuck them. Fuck them. Those guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They don't. They're not the authority on anything. They're just kind of they're just dumbasses. I'm sorry. That's my mask off moment for for the stream. You know, that's my irritated mask off moment. I don't know. Supreme Omega says, on manga and anime, in the West, especially America, it's a pity most people ignore shoujo manga, manga for teen girls, and only focus on battle shonen manga. Shoujo manga can be dark, especially in the 70s. So I actually haven't read a lot of teen girl audience manga for, I guess, obvious reasons. If we're gonna count like Sailor Moon, I guess I've read Sailor Moon. But like, I mean, I'm like in my mid-20s. Like I think everyone in my age bracket has like watched and read Sailor Moon to at least some degree. Yeah, no, I definitely think a lot of the like shoujo manga can be, or not can be, should be more included in the comics discussion. Because a lot of that is like that's like the modern equivalent to like those old like 1940s like Patsy Walker books, that Marvel Comics was putting out back when they were timely in the 40s. Like I don't know, but that's just like the comic book dork in me who loves like the history of comics as well as comics. I don't know. I just love seeing like all these like parallels across time. I think it's really cool. I think it's groovy, you know. Yeah, I love it. Jaeger says hello. Hello! Oh, that was my obnoxious YouTuber like, hello! Vsauce here. What's in this cup? Quick answer. It's not semen. But what if it was? That's my Vsauce impersonation. I don't know. Let me know how I did. I think I did pretty good. For a guy who's like not wearing his glasses right now, impersonating Vsauce. Toby says world's finest, yay! Oh yeah, when I was holding up the world's finest, damn, I'm super behind in the chat. Supreme Omega says losing the newsstands was a big negative for the comic book industry. It's weird. It's weird. I think it was. It's one of those things where the pros and cons you can weigh them, and they weigh the same. You know, because frankly, without the direct market, comics don't go back to being like brave enough to be weird and niche like they were throughout the late 80s and early 90s, because a lot of comics throughout the late 50s, the 60s, 70s, and the early 80s, there's this like mass market appeal because a lot of the stories are they're appealing to the lowest common denominator. And I don't mean that like in a negative way either. Like they have this mass market appeal, because they had to have that mass market appeal, or else the government was gonna like step in and there'd be government oversight over comics. So you know, when the direct market kind of like pops up, and comics do become like more niche and there's less eyes on them, you know, like they're allowed to be more daring. They're allowed to be weirder. You're allowed to get stories like Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, and you know, you're allowed to have like Neil Gaiman come in and like revamp Miracle Man. You know, you're allowed to do a lot of really weird stuff in comics throughout the 80s and 90s and the 2000s that frankly you just probably couldn't do if comics didn't have the direct market to lean on. But we're kind of at this weird point now where we're looking at the direct market and we're really thinking to ourselves, with the way technology is kind of like progressed, I'll say, like not just technology, but just like how geek culture has kind of exploded, made like all these things that were like once kind of like niche and weird kind of like cool and hip and mainstream, but like only if you like water it down to like the most mass appeal version of itself. I don't know, it's so bizarre. I feel like the comic industry is just kind of like horseshoed, but a lot of people like in charge of the reins of the industry like haven't realized that, you know, we're beyond the halfway point. We're beyond the fucking like, you know, we're beyond the 3/4 point. We're like at the end of the horseshoe, man. Like we're not here. We're here. We're here. I don't think a lot of the big wigs in the industry understand that yet, but they're in for a rude awakening. Tevy says comics are being released in Target now, especially with action figures. That's cool. I like that. That's a good idea. Tevy says if you were in charge of Spider-Man's office, would you fire all of the horrible editors at the Spider-Man office and hire people who care about Spider-Man? Well, that's kind of the thing. I don't think anybody who's working on Spider-Man currently in Marvel Comics, I don't think any of them hate Spider-Man. I think the problem is they love Spider-Man, but they love a specific version of that character that they grew up with, which is, frankly, irrelevant to a modern audience who grew up with, like, what we grew up with. You know, that's the real problem. Supreme Omega. Spider-Man friend hot take. Flash Thompson was a better best friend than Harry. Flash has been with Peter since the beginning. I agree. Again, I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's a common sense take. Because Flash never tried to, like, murder Peter while dressed up like a fucking cackling goblin man. Like, just throwing it out there. Unless your friends do that, in which case, hey man, I don't think those are your friends. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. That's all. Question on the Civil War 2 or Civil War 2. I'm just wondering, if you were in charge of Civil War 2, how would you do that event, and would you have Ulysses be the main villain for that event? Well, if I was in charge of Civil War 2, my first order of business would to not release Civil War 2, because that's a terrible idea. But okay. If you have to release a Civil War 2 to, like, promote your movie coming out later that year, and you want to, like, do a whole thing where Carol Danvers is, you know, on one side and Tony Stark is on the other, I don't know. You'd have to come back to me on that. I know that I can come up with like an interesting idea or a pitch, but like it's just nothing's coming to me right now. But I think you can make it work. Supreme says, on Scott Snyder, I wish his run was set pre-New 52, because Snyder is at his best when he was writing Dick Babs instead of Bruce Batts. Or Dick Batts instead. Dick Batts. You had the perfect opportunity to say Bat Dick, but you didn't take it. I respect the absolute hell out of your restraint. But yeah, no, he says Snyder was at his best when he's writing Dick Batts instead of Bruce Batts. Clearly, the Owls should have been Dick Grayson's foes. Well, I think I read somewhere that was the case, and then New 52 happened, and then Scott Snyder just kind of retooled everything to be centered around Bruce, which I think is interesting. I'm always very curious to, like, know what that alternate future or alternate history looked like, where DC never rebooted in the New 52. I'm always very curious about that. Yeah, very curious. If you had power and money to do your own Miss Marvel adaptations, would it be animated or live action? What would you change or remove? I'd make it animated. I would just straight up make an animated Miss Marvel series. You know, have you guys like watched Arcane? Like I would love to do like that kind of animation style for Miss Marvel. I think that would be great for that character. I think it would fit with her very well. Or the same animation style from the Nickelodeon Ninja Turtles series. I think that would be great for a Miss Marvel show. Yeah, man, that's what I would do. And I would basically just adapt the first couple of like trades worth of content, kind of straight up, honestly. Tevye says I saw Lightyear on Disney Plus. Oh, well then I don't feel bad that about money loss because you didn't lose any money, but I am sorry that you wasted your time for saying you didn't like it. I am still interested to see what Lightyear looks like, though. I'm still weirdly, morbidly curious to see what that movie looks like. W says, sadly, Amazing Spider-Man 900 gave me my worst fears with Peter and Black Cat being a couple, which is the last thing that I wanted, and it just feels so forced. Yeah, I feel you, but again, just look at the editors who are in charge of Spider-Man right now, man. When you do that, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense, at least. Adam says, I love how to this day, Hammer was just an empty acronym. Was it? Did they not do anything with the Hammer acronym? Well, that sucks. Damn. Well, shit, man. Could have done something interesting with Thor. I don't know. Just damn. Supreme Omega. Darker. Civil War 2. What if? Instead of almost killing Tony, what if Carol accidentally killed Kamala? In the heat of the moment, how would Miss M's accidental death affect the superhero community in Jersey City? Well, first of all, everyone would hate that white woman. Just straight up despise Carol Danvers. I think everyone would just properly despise her in the way that oh, you think Comicsgate hated Carol? Oh no, wait until you see the hordes on Twitter. Oh man. Fascinating to see what that world looks like. But no. Supreme Omega. On Marvel's early 2000s rebirth, I feel like Bill Jemas and Jimmy Palmiotti deserve more credit. Oh, hell yeah. I feel like both of them brought out the best of the Quesada era instincts. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. Because I say this in... it's one of my retrospectives for the Ultimates. But all those guys that, everyone shits on now because it's popular to shit on them, like Avi Arad, Bill Jemas, Joe Quesada, like all these guys, they saved Marvel Comics. They saved Marvel Comics. They did. Because these guys came in and they saw what Marvel was working with, and they were like, well, you got the Hulk, you got Captain America, you got all these other characters. You can do really interesting, weird stuff with them, and you can make movies about them, and you can make video games. You can do all this weird, interesting stuff. And Marvel at the time was like, no. But it's so funny how the shoe's on the other foot now, because in the same way that Marvel was just kind of dragging their knuckles against the ground while they were crawling through broken glass with their testicles just dragging behind them in the pain. like in the same way that Marvel was like that like 20 years ago, DC is like that now. It's so weird. It's so weird. Also, since you bring up like early 2000s, like Marvel and DC, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I hope I conveyed myself like, I guess like accurately, but he's a little older than I am, and his whole thing is like, you know, he's a Marvel fan. He sees himself as a Marvel fan, and like he appreciates DC, but he's not a big DC guy. And I get that. I respect that, but I never had that personally. Like I never had the Marvel bias versus the DC bias. I just didn't. I didn't have that. And I think it's because I grew up reading Marvel and DC in the early 2000s, when personally I think both Marvel and DC were on their shit. They were I probably shouldn't do that in the mic, you know, while staring at y'all with my beady eyes, but no, I think Marvel and DC were like, they were respectfully and respectively, they were knocking it out of the park, you know. The early 2000s is the era of, you know, Bill Jemas and Mark Millar in the Ultimate Universe. You know, it's the era of era. It's either that or like I sounded like JFK giving a speech. Era. But yeah, no, early 2000s. It's you know, Mark Millar and Brian Hitch and Bill Jemas doing Ultimates. It's Kevin Smith and not Phil Jimenez, Phil Hester, revitalizing the Green Arrow brand. It's Jeff Johns revitalizing the JSA brand. You know, it's JMS. You know, with Ramita Jr. coming in and fixing Spider-Man. Like, I don't know why I did air quotes there either. Like, no, they actually did fix Spider-Man. Oh man, like Mark Waid was also doing Justice League. You know, that's also the era of Kurt Busiek's run on the Avengers with George Perez. Yo, the 2000s fucking rocked. You know, and also Grant Morrison's X-Men, bro. Like, yeah, no. But for me, that's what I grew up on. I grew up in an era where both Marvel and DC were just on their shit. They were doing the thing, and they were neck and neck, you know. And I'm spoiled in that regard. I got to grow up in an era where both Marvel and DC were on the top of their game, and a lot of people just they didn't have that luxury. So I don't know. It's always kind of fun when I meet people who are like older than me and younger than me, who grew up in like the like 80s 90s era when like Marvel was the shit and DC was poo poo. Or when I meet people who are like younger than me who are like, DC is the shit. Marvel, what is that shit? It's so funny because I grew up like in that era between them. I think it's so funny, but yeah, no, I'm definitely both a Marvel and DC fan. I like them both, which is I don't think a lot of people quite get. Tevye says, question. Speaking of Green Lantern, that reminds me. How do you feel about Green Lantern Beware My Power, the animated movie? Well, I'm trying to take my mother's words to heart as I get older. If you can't say something nice, don't say something at all. What I will say, though, is that mean to tell me that that DC Comics tried to establish on film the character and world of Green Lantern through a bastardized adaptation of the Parallax Saga? Like, this is the second time doing it. Like, bro, you like in the immortal words of, like, you know, Doofenshmirtz, you know, greatest philosophical mind of our time. If I had a nickel for every time DC tried to jumpstart a Green Lantern brand on film with a weird, cracked mirror, bastardized version of the Parallax Saga, I'd have 2 nickels. But it's weird that it happened twice, right? I don't know. That was just bizarre, dude. That movie. And it's so funny because, like, DC Animation was, like, on a winning streak again. Like, I was like, oh man, like, oh, the animated movies are, like, we're back to getting, you know, hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. Nope. Well, the streak's broken. But hopefully the animated stuff coming out next year that got, you know, shown off at Comic-Con is good, because I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself if the animated adaptation of The Doom That Came to Gotham sucks. Like, I just don't know what I'm gonna do with myself if that happens. That would hurt immensely. I also don't know how I would bear to live in a world where you set up Batman so well with The Long Halloween, and you set up Superman so well with Man of Tomorrow and the Justice Society movie. You set up Flash so well with Justice Society World War II. Just all of that just doesn't pay off in this War World movie, Justice League. If that movie turns out to be the same level quality as this, like, Green Lantern movie that just came out, I'm gonna be sad. I'm gonna be real sad. Like, I'm gonna be up in my feelings, man. Like, that would break the bat. And by the bat, I mean my heart. My heart-shaped bat. A mulatto, an albino. A mosquito. My bat. Mobiahito. I don't know. I'm not Kurt Cobain, bro. I'm not gonna front. I can't spit. Can't spit. I'm just like Mia Khalifa. I'm all swallow. Devia, question. Speaking of Green Lantern, nope. I just answered that question. Supreme Omega. Do you feel, if the Comics Code never happened, do you feel the comic reading public would be more diverse? Because I feel like the code drove away a lot of female readers, and that used to be a big part of the industry. Absolutely. I think the Comics Code of Authority is the direct cause of the direct market, which bottlenecked geek culture and, like, comics culture. So, you know, I definitely feel like if comics were more accessible to the public, you wouldn't have this whole, like, stigma surrounding comics where it's just like it's a boys thing, and it's the weirdo, like, you know, sex pest, like, creepy boys at that. Again, like, look at the market right now. Look at how diverse, you know, and all these, like, diverse voices in comics, like all this variety that you see in the comics industry today, that's what comics were in like 1948. They were, there was something for everybody back then. Just like there's something for everybody right now. It's the problem is, currently, there's something for everybody, but the direct market can't quite handle that. So I don't know. I'm very interested to see where this all leads in the near future. Assuming Nancy Pelosi doesn't get us all blown up because she wanted to go to fucking Taiwan, but regardless of that bullshit. Louis Berry. Is it Louis Berry or Louis Berry? I mean, both sound really cool. Both make you sound like a swinging, sexy jazz musician who plays like the trumpet, not the trombone, the trumpet. Yes. Warner Brothers have 10 months and the money. Reshoot Aquaman 2 and The Flash with Deborah Ann Woll and Timothy Chalamet as The Flash. Also release the Air and Schumacher cuts, Batgirl and Scoob prequel. Yes to all of that. Yeah, I think it could work. Except Timothy Chalamet. Can we actually get somebody who's blonde to be Barry Allen? Is it that hard to get somebody who's blonde in Hollywood to be Barry Allen? I don't know. That's just me, though. That's just me. Supreme Omega says, on the G. Willow Wilson run. Okay, no, we're good. On the G. Willow Wilson run, it's always felt weird that Nakia didn't get the same level of focus and page time as Bruno. She's also Kamala's childhood bestie, yet Bruno gets more attention. And I wonder why. Sexual tension. That's why. Kamala is, at least the way she's presented, through my cis het biased eyes, Kamala's in the dudes, and Bruno is a dude. She's a dude you grew up with, but still a dude. So there's that kind of when you get to teenhood, adolescence, those I don't know what I'm doing with my hands here, but just this friction, and some of that friction was reserved for Nakia and Zoe, as they entered their own relationship. So, yeah. Tevi says, on the subject of Civil War 2. Damn, there's just a Civil War 2 podcast at this point. I am just wondering if you were in charge of that event. I'm just wondering, how would you fix? How would you fix that terrible event? I don't know. Well, one of the things that I think makes the original Civil War work is that it's pulling from the headlines a little bit. It's actually kind of critiquing, the war on terror. It's critiquing the Bush administration. It's critiquing the left's reaction to the right's reaction to the left's reaction to the Bush administration. I don't know. It's doing a lot of real world allegory stuff. That I think is all very interesting. That I think you can get away with doing for Civil War 2. So one of the things that I do with Civil War 2 is, I'd go back to those satirical roots of Civil War. I'd make fun of some weird shit that was going on in the world at the time. there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world at the time in 2016, or at 2015. No, actually, I think it's 2017 when Civil War 2 came out. I don't know. I would definitely have the whole thing center around like maybe like a culture war kind of thing, like I don't know. It's weird. I don't. It's bizarre. Again, I'd have to think about it some more, but yeah, yeah. I'm just not the guy to ask. I have no idea. I have nothing to offer the world but my own confusion. Um, Tevye says JMS Spider-Man. No idea what the context behind that is, but JMS Spider-Man, my man. Supreme Omega on the Civil War 2. Kamala's what if? Oh, okay. This is a what if. How would Kamala's family and friends react to Carol's unintentional murder of Kamala, especially the ones who know her secret identity, like her mom, Bruno, Nakia, and Zoe? Well, if Kamala ever died in like such a brutal fashion, I mean, I'm pretty sure her identity would be outed, and I think her family would like hate Carol Danvers. But I don't know. Then you're like changing the nature of Civil War 2. It's weird. I don't know. Last thing on Civil War 2. What if? How would Hydra Cap exploit the death of Miss Marvel, aka the accidental death of an underage teen hero? Would Hydra Cap win in Secret Empire? Well, I mean that was kind of the whole point of Secret Empire, right? Like, taking like all these horrible things that have happened over the past couple of years and, rationalizing them as, well, this happened because Hydra Cap made it happen. I don't know. Interesting. Good noodle. Tevye says, I'm gonna go to bed. Good night, man. Oh, good night, Tevye. Supreme Omega. Last thing on the G. Wilson run, do you feel like Nakia and Zoe should have been a couple? Or is it best left unrequited? I think it would have been like interesting to see them as a couple, but unrequited definitely feels more painfully realistic. It just does. Well, yeah. And that's like the end of the chat so far. I just like show you like the last book I picked up. I think I showed you this guy. I got this guy. I'm excited to read this because I love the Flash. And Mark Waid is just like the absolute goat. And I'm loving this so far. But like yeah, the last book that I got this week was Aquaman Andromeda. I'm still loving this book. I peeped through a little bit of it. I didn't like read the whole thing, but yeah, Christian Ward's art continues to just like blow my balls out of orbit and send me following them. It's like a speeding blood trail of excitement and epicness. Yeah, this book is great. If you're not checking out Aquaman Andromeda, I really think you're missing out, man. Not to be like dramatic or anything, or say anything like hyperbolic like most other YouTubers do, because I would never do that. This is this generation's Dark Knight Returns. It is. And I say that in the sense that, much like for Batman with Dark Knight Returns, there's very much a feeling of there's Batman before Dark Knight Returns and there's Batman after Dark Knight Returns. I feel like for Aquaman, this could definitely wind up being a case where there's Aquaman before Aquaman Andromeda, and there's Aquaman after Aquaman Andromeda. So yeah, I'm very interested to see. I don't know if this comic has a long-lasting legacy. I hope it does. I really hope it does, because I think it deserves it. Ramby's doing a lot of interesting stuff with the lore behind Aquaman here, and just Kristen Ward's art is. But yeah, there you have it. Those are all the comics I read this week. We're also coming up on 2 hours. And I'm about to deuce. I'm about to make like 2 girls 1 cup and just drop that deuce. But the deuce isn't poop. It's just me doing this and fading out. Oh, and I guess Supreme asked like one last question. Why do you feel Nakia and Zoe being unrequited is more realistic? Is it because their potential relationship would be even more culturally taboo than Kamala and Bruno? No, just I'm a glutton for pain. I want to watch people suffer, because that's why I like comics. To watch people suffer and watch the world burn. Ha! Crackle and burn. Damn, my face when we're never gonna see Brendan Fraser say that as Firefly. I'm sad. Well, anyways, that's it. Thank y'all for coming out. This is great. I love y'all. I'm glad I get to do more of these streams. I am going to call it a night. And I'm going to do so by saying night.